Okay, let's have a go. This is part two. We're going to create our tile map for our first level. It's going to look naff, but there you go. That's what we're going to do to start with. Now, in our assets file, we have got this thing. So if you open assets.cs, just double click it. We've got this thing called tile map, active level. That's where eventually the level's going to be created, and then tile maps automatically display themselves and we can interrogate them and move around. It's how games like Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Frogger, they work. The basic background is created using tile map, then you've got sprites on top, the moving parts. Okay, so that's the sort of technology we're messing about with here. Now, in order to set up data for a tile map, we need what tiles exist for this map, so we need to create that, and we actually need to be able to specify where the tiles are on the map. Okay, now we're going to do this by creating a class to hold this. Okay, so this is just basically a file. So a quick way of doing this is to hold down Shift, Alt and press C. Okay, or you can go up to Project, Add Class, and it'll chug away first time you do this and then it'll bring a dialog box up which should say class. Now we're going to change this to level data. Okay, so I'm going to call this class, and it's going to quickly create that. So it's basically, it's got nothing in it. It's got a few libraries, the system libraries. These are the default ones that Visual Studio always puts in. We're going to need another couple of libraries. Okay, so I'm going to do this at the top. So I'm going to say using Microsoft.xna framework. Now this gives us access to some of the basic structures in Microsoft's XNA library, but we're also going to be using my engine. Okay, so we need to add in engine 7 as a library. Okay. Right, so once we've got that, we can now create the tiles that are available for our world. Alright, so what we're going to do is go private static, so we're going to type this in first and we'll look at what it means. Tile, square bracket, I'm going to call this world tiles, and I'm going to say equals new tile. So this looks minging, but actually it's not that bad. Then I'm going to put a brace, a couple of blank lines by pressing enter, a closing brace and a semicolon. Okay, now what we're going to create here, this, if you remember, means an array. So we're creating an array of tile. Now a tile is part of my game engine. It lets me specify a texture, a rectangle and a colour. Okay, and that allows me to like draw graphics from a tile map. Now if we flick back to our fireworks, if you haven't got that open, remember, just go over base textures, right click, open with, and then select fireworks. Okay, it's already open for me because I've just been doing it. Now if I zoom in using Control Plus, we can have a look at the tiles I've created. You're at liberty to change these. These are 5 square blocks. They just got a colour and a texture. Okay, and each one of these blocks is 32 by 32 pixels. That's how I've decided to have my map. You can make your tile maps any individual block size you want. Okay, but for this exercise we're doing them 32 by 32 pixels. So I've got a load of rectangles all sat next to each other, and I've got to define those in my level data. Okay, and I do that by specifying them in this array. So let's just say new tile. So this creates a tile definition. Now it first wants a texture, and they're all going to come from the same texture, TX base. Now it wants a rectangle, so I'm going to do 1, and I need to specify, remember, the X, the Y, the width and the height, all the information that Fireworks gives me. So I can select this first one. This is going to be my floor tile. Okay, now the X and Y, if I look down at the bottom here to the bottom left, is 6448. So 6448. Now I know the width is 32 and the height is 32. That's nice and easy. And the colour I want to make it, well, I'm going to say colour white. Now I'll explain what that does in a second. I'm also going to put the number that this tile holds in this array. Alright, when we create an array, remember we talked about this, everything starts at 0. So the first item in this array is going to be tile 0. Okay, and that is going to be one of my floor tiles. And I've put a little comma there because I'm adding more things to this array. Now, I have got another 4 tiles to do. Now instead of typing all that, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. The only thing, because of the way I place them on the fireworks sheet, the only thing I need to change is the X position. So this second tile, when I select it, is on 96. This one's on 128. This one starts at 160, and the final one starts at 192. Okay, so I've sat them side by side to make it easier for me. They're all at the same height. They're all the same width and height. Okay, so all I need to do is change the X number. So 96, 128, 160, and 192. Okay, I'm going to colour them all white. I'm going to number these. I'll need those numbers later when I'm putting the data together. Now, I've decided that these different tiles, that the one that looks like metal is going to be the floor. This one, red one, is going to be bouncy. So when a bullet hits this, bullets are going to bounce off. This one, this brown one, is going to be a wall that gets destroyed. This orange one is floor tile that is sand, so you're going to go slow over it. And this black one is a wall that when bullets hit, that's it, they get destroyed. So they just get absorbed. Okay, so I'm going to put that information onto here. So this is going to be my bouncy wall. Remember, this is just a comment. It's in green because I put // This is going to be my soft wall, the one that gets destroyed. This is going to be sand, and this is going to be my absorbing wall. Okay, you can put whatever you want in there. It's up to you. Obviously, you can create more tiles when you've sorted out how these levels work. You can then create extra tiles for different reasons and put code in to deal with it. Right, but for now, they're the 5 we're going to start with. So that array called world tiles just specifies what tiles we can have for our tile map. Alright, now these numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are what we're going to put into our level data. Now we're going to create a really basic outline level to start with. So our first level. So it's going to consist of, and I've worked all this out with the size of the screen you've got, 36 columns, so I'm putting a little comment here, and 20 rows. So I've got to define that many positions in my map. And I'm going to do that by saying static int. Now this is going to be a 2D array. So in C# to do a 2D array, we put square bracket, comma, square bracket. Okay, and then I'm going to call this level 1. I'm going to say equals, and then what I've got up here is a brace, and I'm going to put a blank line and put another brace and a semicolon. So that just says in between these two braces the definition of this 2D array is going to be created. Okay, now what we want to make this, how we want to do this is to make this as easy as possible. Alright, so I'm just going to, where that says auto-hide on Solution Explorer, that little like drawing pin, I think it's supposed to be, board pin, I'm just going to click that to get it out of the way to make this easy for me. Now, I have to define one row at a time. So I start with a brace, and then I say what type of wall I want. Now I'm just going to have normal absorbing walls all around the outside, so that's where the 4 is, so that's a 4. Then I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to put another 4, then another 4. I'm going to keep going until I've got 36. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. And I'm going to end with a closing brace and put a comma. Alright, now I'm going to count that just to make sure I've done the right number, because I need 36. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Okay, so you need to do the same thing. Make sure you display that properly. Now, I'm going to copy that because that's the top row and I want that for the bottom row. Okay, so that's nice. And I'm going to put at the end of here row 0, row 19. Remember, it's an array. The first item is 0, so the first row is 0 and the last item, the 20th, is 19. Now I want to put in between those two 18 rows of essentially empty space. Okay, so I want a left hand wall there and a right hand wall there, but everything else I want to be floor. So I'm going to change all the 4s to 0s. Now there's an easier way of doing this. If I go highlight a 4 and say Control F and then say quick replace, and I want to replace it with a 0, and I can just click now replace. Now let's move this out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. I say click replace, replace. It makes it a little bit easier. So I'm just having to click here and it should, don't go mad and select replace all, because every 4 in the whole program will get changed. Okay, so I've left one at the start and one at the end. So just close the find window now. Right, I want 18 rows of this. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Just to make sure I've done it right, I'm going to at the end put a little comment. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and this is just like a double check for myself. Oh, I counted properly. Now the quick way of pasting is to do Control V. Okay, so Control C is copy, Control V is paste. Just get used to those, they make a big difference when we're doing our work. Okay, right, that sets up just the basic information. So we've decided on tiles. We then said how to use those tiles to make a map. So if you squint, you can actually nearly see that map as it might be on the screen. Okay. In order to make this work, we need to be able to set up a way of creating our tile map. Okay, so what we're going to do, below the level 1 grid or 2D array, after the closing brace and the semicolon, we're going to create a subroutine called draw level, and this is going to accept the level that we want to draw. At the minute we've only got one level, and it's also going to have this, but I'll explain this in a minute. Now we're not going to do it that way. I'll simplify this a little bit. It's just going to ask for the level number as a parameter. Remember, subroutines, parameters just allow us to pass data. So we're going to run this subroutine. We're going to say, hey, draw level 1. Right, in case we want to do anything fancy, we're going to use a switch. Okay, and we're going to say switch level number. And a switch, remember, allows us to examine a value and say, if it's this, do this. If it's that, do this, using case. So we say case 1, so that's level 1. And we always do this when we're doing switches. We put the test in, then we put the break straight away. Okay, so this is going to build level 1. Okay, now the first thing we need to do is say how big we want the world to be. Now the world's going to be the same as the screen size, so we're going to put this code. So don't worry about this for now. So gm.engine_m.world size. Now we can just give it a width and a height. So what we're going to do is we're going to say gm.screen_size.width, because this map is exactly the same size as the screen. We will later on make ones that are bigger than the screen, but for now this one just like that. Okay, so we tell the engine how big the world is. Then we're going to create our tile map. So we're going to say assets dot, now active level is where we're going to store the map, and we're just going to say equals new tile map, and we're going to give it a name, and we're going to display this name at some point. So we're just going to say simple. Okay, it's just a bit of text, and we're going to say how big it is. Now the size of this is going to be what the screen size is. Alright, in essence for us that's the same size as the engine. Now we'll keep this consistent and do that. So it says give it a name, specify the size. Now what we're now going to do is tell it what tiles are used to draw it. So we're going to say assets.activeLevel.my tile list equals, and then we're just going to say world tiles. Okay, so that tells the tile map what tiles are available to draw, and we can change those depending on what level. So we could have more or less depending. You could have completely different tiles. We're then going to say assets dot active level, and we're going to use this weird thing, set map copy. What this does is copy a map, and we're going to say 32 by 32. We need to tell it how big the tiles are, and we're going to say copy the data from level 1, which is that stuff we've just created up here. Okay, so that's going to produce the map, and then we're just going to say to the tile manager, so gm.tilemap_manager add our assets.activeLevel. Okay, and what that does, that makes it get displayed. Okay, so it won't get displayed until we run this subroutine. Okay, so let's go back to playgame.cs, and just for now we're going to put the code in here. We're going to say level data dot draw level 1. Okay, so we've set up 3 things here: data about tiles, a map, and then we've created a tile map, and in play game we're saying draw level 1. Right, let's do F5 and run that just to see if it works. It said build succeeded, but it might crash. Who knows? Ah, there you go. So we've got round the outside the black blocks, or like charcoaly grey blocks, and in the inside we've got the steel sheet, which is our floor graphic. Okay, now I'm going to stop the video there because it's probably gone way over time. Okay, and we'll carry on with part 3 and do a little bit more work.